Gotta love this time of year. Only one can be champion. Let's go playoff racing.
I said, hey, oh, hey, there's no surrender. Let 'em hear my battle
This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
For the first time all season, Michel Dudignon's row on the point sheet has a number other than 1 on it. Appropriately, it was his longtime rival Mick Claridge who achieved this feat, and he managed it at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. But we've gone from the Great White North to the land down under. Oran Park's tight confines, unique layout, and complex mix of corners are likely to challenge everyone who sets foot here. Will we see someone else manage to beat the Frenchman? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round 9 of the Lotus 49 Grand Prix Legends Series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing channel and the iRacing Esports Network. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Johan Vandenveld. Behind the scenes is our director Sean Crackers Ambrose, and is using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Johan, it's rare enough to see this track once a season, but after the Weekend Warriors held around here, now we've got much more powerful cars, so I suspect it's going to look like a very different race.
Maybe, but I think this is going to be a great race, Joe, as Oran Park offers a lot of unknowns for the drivers today. The last time that the Lotus 49 raced here was all the way back in 2013, during the first season of the Lotus 49 on iRacing, meaning that most people don't have any experience racing this car on this track. Now, Oran Park itself was built in 1962 and actually closed 9 years ago, but using iRacing we can reimagine ourselves on this Australian 2.6 kilometer track. Now, while most people on iRacing don't rate this track very high, I have to admit that I quite like it. It's a short circuit, which means that traffic will be a factor, but at the same time it offers a long, high-speed section that reminds me of Donington Park. Now, overtaking will be difficult. It will most likely happen due to mistakes of the driver in front or by a very courageous move in the opening part of the lap. Qualifying, therefore, will dictate a big part of the race. But before we see where things stand, let's jump on board the Lotus 49 for a lap around the track.
All right, we've got Phil Lake in the GSRC Lotus 49, so let's do a lap around Oran Park. Down into turns 1 and 2, drivers will be braking incredibly early because of how tricky it is with this little kink. There's just so many ways to get this one wrong that it's likely to be a trouble spot during the race. Try to take a late apex off the corner, and from there you swing under the bridge and drift left to set up for 3. This is one of the slowest corners on the track, and finding the throttle without spinning the tires will be a difficult task. Immediately, you're into 4, where it's got a big bump mid-corner. It also opens up on the exit as it climbs towards the crossover, so once again, getting the power down without wheel spin will make all the difference. 6 will take a big lift to get through it, and then you've got the swift chicane of 7 and 8 with its blind entry. Drivers will have to tiptoe through here, and then get back on the binders right away for 9. This is another one where you won't be able to see the apex, and then you'll have to get back across the track for 10 and 11. Feather the throttle, but be careful not to take too much speed through or you'll wind up in the grass right when you need to be getting back on the brakes for the final turn. The wall being right at the edge of the track means that mistakes will cost you dearly. Get on the gas as soon as you can since we're now back on the front stretch, and hopefully you've now finished a lap around Oran Park. There you see a lap around Oran Park. A little bit of damage on the nose. It's going to be hard to avoid that in some places around here with some of those tall curbs. Let's take a look at the points championship. Now, it is pretty obvious still, even though we finally had a change. Michel Dunignon didn't win last round, but because of drop points, he still has a perfect score. Eduardo Prado is in second, the one chasing him. Mick Claridge hasn't been able to show up at every round. Roman Pavlowski and Rob Olenek, though, look at the fight there in for third. It is incredibly tight. Mick coming back bumps him back up into the top five, but he's going to have to keep showing up if he wants to stay in the hunt for some of those top points in the F1 driver standings. Johan, from what I understand, it's been a lot closer in the F2, though. How's that stand?
Absolutely. Well, the driver that's first in the F2 Championship has quite a bit of a margin. Hugh Haycox, you can see it on screen, 21 points in front of P2. Last time around in Motorsport, Hugh had a really good round, just extending and consolidating his lead. But behind him, that's really where the action is. Steve Hogan and David Rossi, two drivers that are neck on neck. And with 4 rounds to go, all these drivers might still go for the title. Behind them, Philippe Urquhart, he's a little bit in limbo, currently on 84 points, sitting clear from P5, however. Andrew Eng, he's trying to follow, but at the moment is just trying to hold off Johnny Bell.
And of course, we have a Constructors' Championship. Now, this is actually based on the nations. They do this because this is how it was back in 1967 when these cars ran. France, of course, is leading the way with Dudignon. The UK, look at how many drivers they've had to contribute. And in spite of all of that, there's just no way around the fact that the Frenchman has been dominant this season. Now, Prado has brought Brazil to the fore. Not usually a nation that shows a lot of power in this series, but Prado certainly has shown himself to be a force. He's jumped up to fourth recently, and that has demoted Germany down to P5, 181 points back now. And in case we've got viewers who've never watched before, Johan, what are our race details?
Yeah, real quickly, this round at Oran Park is round 9 of our 12-round season. 2 watermarks means that the 2 worst results of each driver will be removed at the end of the season. The race today at Oran Park will be 28 laps with open setup, so the drivers can tweak it just to their liking, and the points pay out to 25th position.
As always, you're watching this series on the iRacing Esports Network. Make sure and subscribe when you have the opportunity. If you haven't subscribed, you'll know because when you go to the YouTube page, it'll be a big red button on there. Click that, and you'll get all of the Lotus 49 Grand Prix legends in your YouTube feed. Things have been fascinating here in qualifying. Michel Dudignon just up to the top spot, but Eduardo Prado is on the front row ahead of Mick Claridge. And how about this? David Gaspers has returned. It's been a while since we've seen David compete in this series. He's been running over in the Weekend Warriors that I mentioned has run here, so I guess his familiarity has brought him back, Johan.
Yeah, it's good to see him back. He's currently sitting only in P4 at the moment. Over train grade, we're looking at him on screen. He's sitting in P5, but he already completed both his qualifying laps. Let's maybe take a look at Gary Thiel. Gary Thiel is currently driving around the quick infield section. He currently hasn't set a lap yet. Had an off track in his first qualifying lap, and he's actually trying to put himself on the board. Now, if Gary doesn't manage that, Joe, he will start the race only in P20, maybe even a little bit lower. And if that's the case, then Gary Thiel has a horrible race ahead of him where he has to make up a lot of positions on the track where it's difficult to overtake. Coming across the line now, this time around he puts in a qualifying time. A 1:04.0 puts him in P8.
Good enough for at least within the top 10. As we take a look at Stefan Schlacker, who has admitted himself he lacks practice around here, but he's good enough for 18th, so he's not at the very back of the grid. This is certainly going to be a learning experience as the clock ticks down. One of the things that I noticed around here is this car seems to have so much power that it looks like it is a struggle just finding the throttle at most of the corners.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially in turn one and two, I found in practice that a lot of the drivers were spinning out there, trying to get the car slowed down from turn one, but also trying to get back on the power in turn two. So that's really an area of the track we have to keep an eye on for drivers making mistakes. Meanwhile, Stefan Slacker, we're still looking at him, goes over the start finish line, doesn't improve his lap time. Just Coleman is on screen now. He will have enough time to cross start finish line and put on one lap time. He currently doesn't have a lap time yet, so we'll start P21 or lower currently. And he goes over the bridge now, and this is really where the two halves of this track differ from each other. You have that opening section that's very tight, very twisty, and then here you go into a huge array of corners that swing from left to right, very quick, also very difficult because you have to use all the track available. Almost Jess is losing control of his car, and after 2 times he cannot hold it anymore, so that won't be a qualifying time from Jess Coleman.
Yeah, just not enough time left for him to get it back around. And of course, actually, that is his second lap anyway. So, as you said, he's done for the day. That is everybody in qualifying then, because I don't see Colin Bentley out there running. So nobody can get another lap in before the time is over. There's a relatively large grid for this series, so why don't we go through that starting grid and tell you how that green flag will see them line up. Michel Dudignon, as we mentioned, is on the pole, and Eduardo Prado will be starting next to him. Let's see if he can try and challenge, become the third different driver to win this season. Mick Claridge will be starting in the third position, and the second row has David Gaspers to the outside. Ove Trangrade, typically pretty fast in this car, will be down in fifth. Maybe he can get himself up to the podium, depends. Rob Olenek will be starting in sixth. Then the next row has Ben Zoko to the inside, one of our Australians out here on this Australian track. Gary Teal starts eighth. Billy Bob Wright will be in ninth, and at the drop of the green, Daniel Sadro will round out the top 10.
Bruce Nelson is the first driver outside of that with a 104.3. He starts on P11. He's flanked by David Rossi on the outside of row 6. Ian Haycox can be found on P13, just in front of Philippe Urquhart. Both drivers very close together within a tenth of a second. Bill Tyler starts the race in P15. And he's followed by Steve Hogan. On row 9 we find Johnny Bell and Stefan Slacker. The last two drivers with a time set in qualifying are Andres Bruno and Jasmine Beach. Now outside of the top 20 there's 4 drivers that didn't set a qualifying time. And those are Colin Bentley, Jess Coleman, Nathan Michael and Robert Reynolds in P24.
2 other Australians that are in this session are Jasmine Beach and Nathan Michael. So 3 of our drivers have a home track here today, but 2 of them have not put a qualifying time in. Going to be a little bit of a tough day for most of the Australians out there. As we look at all the cars now lined up, you can see it is a little bit dark out there with partly cloudy conditions. 91 degrees on the track surface, not super hot, but also not super cold. Just a little bit of Goldilocks conditions for our drivers. You can see not much wind as well that they are dealing with. They'll take anything that they can get with the challenge that they are facing today. And it looks like we've got everybody out there as the lights now come up. The engines start to rev. Green flag is out. And off the line, Michel Dudignon initially looked very good, but a little bit of wheel spin after that looks to have set him back. Eduardo Prado already under attack, and immediately Mick Claridge around the outside gets himself into second place. Brave stuff, a little bit timid into the corner, and in fact, David Gaspers nearly gets around Prado. And I think we had a little bit of problems at the back. Looks like Philippe Urquhart and Bill Tyler.
Oh, sorry, crash for P3. Crash for P3. Eduardo Prado was hit by David Gaspers, who it seemed like braked a little bit too late. The Brazilian can continue though, but let's hope he doesn't have any damage to his suspension there. Had to take a trip through the grass, and Rob Olenek profited from that.
A little messy at the start, but otherwise most of the drivers have managed to get through. You can see it is a string of cars right away as everybody tries to get single file, but it is Dudignon leading Claridge, leading Gaspers for your podium.
Yeah, you can immediately see the gap between P2 and P3 at the moment. Let's see if David Gaspers can close that gap up. But meanwhile, Mick Claridge, he's following Dudy Young very closely, Joe. Only 3/10 of a second between them. We go on board with the British driver at the moment. Sliding through turn 1. He's trying to set himself up to dive on the inside of turn 2. Doesn't happen. Doesn't manage to do that. He was a little bit too far at that point, and now as they reach the infield section, he's just too far to put it side by side. But he's following the Frenchman close at this point.
So put yourself in Mick Claridge's shoes, Johan. You mentioned the difficulty in trying to tackle turns 1 and 2 in this car, and yet that's one of the few places where you can manage to get an overtake. So if you're Mick and you have the run, do you try and attack into there, or do you wait for something safer?
I mean, you're fighting with Michel de Jong, so you know that there's not going to be a lot of mistakes, if there's going to be mistakes from the Frenchman. So you just have to try it at those points of the race. Michel de Jong was making a mistake a few corners ago, almost had an opportunity to do that. Meanwhile, we go to P6. Benjamin Soko, the Australian, he's under attack from Over Trangerate. Over Trangerate was caught up in that kerfuffle with Gaspers and Prado. He had to step on the brakes, fell down the order a little bit. That means that Benjamin Soko got past, and the Australian now is trying to hold the Norwegian behind.
Yeah, it was very close to the latter half of the lap, but on the critical front stretch, he started to fall away. A little puff of smoke as drivers lock it up through 1 and 2. They've also got something of a train of cars not far behind. That's Gary Teal, Billy Bob Wright, Daniel Sadro, Bruce Nelson, Ian Haycox, and David Rossi all in a row.
Yeah, very close. Meanwhile, let's see, I think it was Andres Bruno who just went off the track a little bit. One of the drivers in the back of the field. We don't have to go to that because he's back driving. But there's really a lot of cars close together. Oh, meanwhile, Benjamin Soko is making a mistake, and that might give the opportunity to over-triangulate in the infield section. I think that Soko cut the corner. He might get a penalty for that. The Norwegian is struggling to get the power down. We were talking about it, but now he has a good run towards the last corner, puts it on the inside. What a beautiful move from the Norwegian. And this is exemplary for what Mick Claridge has to do to get by de Dion. Just setting yourself up through that set of corners. But meanwhile, Over Trangerate is immediately under attack by Soko. I did not expect this. He chooses to stay on the outside line, can brake later, stay in front of Soko.
Soko, I'm impressed that he managed to get it slowed down in the last corner. He was 2 wheels in the grass. And this has brought Gary Teal up behind him as we look back at the American. Continuing to try and chase to see if he can get a position. Started in 8th, still sits in 8th as it stands. They come up over the unique crossover through turn 6 and now into the twisty bits through 7 and 8.
Interesting to see that all these drivers are really giving it all, because coming over the bridge this time it was Over Trangerate putting 2 wheels on the grass. Luckily for the Norwegian, he did not lose a lot of time. Meanwhile, for P4, the battle is heating up. Rob Olenek is under threat of Eduardo Prado. I think that Olenek made a mistake there. Maybe we can go to a replay after this fight is over, because now on the outside, Rob Olenek has more momentum. Just swings past the Brazilian again, but the Brazilian is on the inside. Last time around, we saw that the outside could break later. This time around, it's the inside winning. Prado still on the inside, and this corner is very long to the left. Yes, Prado has a beautiful, persistent pressure from Prado, nets in P4.
Brazilian had to work for that one. Let's take a look at that replay to see how that kicked off. You have to remember, Eduardo started on the front row, so kind of expected him to have a little bit more pace than those around him. This is coming up into 9. Not seeing a mistake quite yet. Is this going to be similar to what we saw with Soko? Ooh, good catch. Didn't put the wheels off the track, but still lost control. Prado pounced, and eventually he got it done.
Yeah, it's almost like Rob Olenek just hit the curbstone a little bit too hard. That made a mistake. Meanwhile, let's go to P1 because Dudion is making a mistake. Yeah, Dudion made a mistake in the final corner. This will give an opportunity to Claridge on the outside. He has more momentum. He has more speed at this point. Can he close the door before they reach turn 1? He smashes it in front of Dudion. The Frenchman cannot get by, but he spins it out. Can he get it going again? And Dudion has to avoid him. But Claridge closes the door in front of the Frenchman. Leaves a small gap for the Frenchman to put his nose inside, side by side towards turn 3. The Frenchman has the inside. Several corners to the right now, and he gets by Claridge again.
Oh, he was ahead for just a corner and a half, but he was not able to hold on to it. Amazing catch regardless. Let's look at that one more time from Mick Claridge. That car was fully sideways coming into the corner, pushing it as hard as he could to try and take that lead away. There you see the initial mistake as the rear tires spin on Michel Dudignon's car. That opens the door, has to go the long way around. I thought he had it, Johan, if I'm honest. It looked like he had the car woed up, and then suddenly it broke loose a second time.
I think that when McLaren wanted to go back on the throttle out of turn 2, he had a little wobble, and that kind of killed his defense on the inside of that corner. Meanwhile, in front of the top drivers is Robert Reynolds spinning. That will warn the drivers a little bit with one of the back markets spinning around. But look at that. Oh, as Eduardo Prado is making a mistake, he almost beaches himself on the exit of turn 2. He can continue.
Now let's watch that since we didn't quite catch it on camera. He was chasing down Gaspers to see if he could get to the battle for the podium because Gaspers has caught our top three. And there you see, whew, these cars are loose. It was already shaky on the way in. Then he clobbered that inside curb and eventually caught it. As we come back live, Olenek has re-caught him. And we got a battle with Ove Trangarade. Trangarade next to Billy Bob Wright, and Wright isn't able to get the job done. He was side by side through turn 6.
Ooh, and actually what happened there, I think Ove Trangarade made a mistake in the infield section a few corners ago, and that's what caused the people behind him to catch up. Gary Thiel got by him because of that mistake, but maybe let's go to the top 3 at the moment, because we were talking about Dudy on the McLaren's battling. At the moment, it's a freeway battle because David Gaspers has caught up. He's around 1 second from Dudion. It doesn't seem like he has the speed, though, Joe, to really follow the Frenchman once he really pounces on the throttle. But Gaspers is making less grave errors than the 2 people in front, and well, he's right in it now.
Don't need to go to it. Ian Haycock's had an off track, lost multiple positions. This is really where the action is right now. Gaspers following Mick Claridge and Michel Dudignon. Mistake seems to be the word of the day, so we'll have to pull out our thesaurus on that one. A lot of drivers as we got another car off there. That's Nathan Michael, one of our Australians, going a lap down.
Oh, look at the Claridge there. Claridge completely bogged down. Lost a lot of positions. Oh, he almost spun it in that quick, trying to overtake Nathan Michael, and I think he got a slowdown penalty.
He did. He goofed on his way into turn 9, cut too much of the corner, gave it away to Gaspers. You see the replay of it right there. He knew it immediately, gave the time back. Gaspers now up to P2, but he's got about 1.2 seconds up, and he himself has an error. He doesn't lose the spot like McClaridge did. He gets it going, but he loses a lot of time to the Frenchman.
It's like Gaspers and Claridge are making it a drift show coming into turn 2 every single lap. There's a lot of tire marks there made by the tires of these drivers, just sliding into this corner every time. You can see that Dudion is driving away.
Oh, and Snelson has had a big problem. He's found the tires coming into turn 2. Usually we've seen just cars spun out here, but unfortunately, this car whips to the outside. You'll see right here. I wonder if he got caught out by whoever that was slow at the on the outside of the corner.
Yeah, it was Nathan Michael coming back onto the track. It could have been, yeah, but shame that Bruce Nelson ended his race in the wall. Meanwhile, Dudion's driving away, but Claridge, he wants a P2 position back. He is really closing down the gap to David Gaspers, going into turn 1 at the moment. Claridge again almost losing. He loses control this time, way more than the other time. So let's see where the other drivers are, because he's being passed by Prado, by Olenek, by a lot of drivers, and he just has to wait in the gravel before it's clear and he can get it going again. Now he gets by, but he drops all the way down to P8.
Oof. That is some massive hurt for the Brit. Just unfortunately, the rear of the car snapping away just as he's trying to get it slowed up. And as you said, he waited a long time for a clear bit of track before he got it going. This is going to be massive work for him.
Yeah, and I'm curious what exactly causes this, because it's the third time already in 10 laps that we saw Mick Claridge make a mistake like this. Maybe it's just his driving style going into the first corners, or maybe it's just setup and weather that's just not working to his liking at the moment. It just makes his car way too loose in the opening part of the track.
Boy, you talk about an international series. This they certainly have come out to represent here today as we watch Gary Teal trying to fend off Ove Trangrade, who closes in the braking but can't do anything with it. Before we lost Mick up at the top, you had a Frenchman, a German, a Brazilian, a Brit, an American, and an Australian, and that was just the top 6 that we were talking about. Unfortunately, now that we've lost Mick, it is now just the top 5. But coming around turn 4, you can see Trangrade continuing to hound Gary Teal. Behind them, that is Mick Claridge, who has regathered himself, trying to find his way through, but no opening as he has a big slide coming into turn 6.
And the interesting thing is that if Ove Trangrade and Gary Teal start fighting with each other, I think that Billy Bob Wright, who's currently in P9, will catch up to this battle as well. So you will have 4 drivers then battling for P6. So that means that Ove Trangrade, he wants to get by Gary Teal as soon as possible. Tries a slightly different line through the final corner, but doesn't get the momentum that he needs to get past.
Down the front stretch towards turn 1. Mick starting to gain a little bit. Had a good run out of the final corner. Oh, he looks loose again. He's off into the dirt. And he gets turned around, catches it in the grass, and gets it going without losing a position. He has got to get that car under control.
Yeah, it almost seems like this time around he was just caught out with really where to turn in or something. He took a really wide line through that first corner. That meant that he has to step on the brake while he was turning. That sent him around. So he doesn't lose a position. With the speed that he has, he might be able to overtake Ove Trangrade. Oh, all these drivers are catching Robert Reynolds now in a horrible position. The apex of one of the fast corners. That's almost to Gary Teal out. Luckily for Teal, he can continue. This bunches all those drivers up. Sadro, Wright are both right on the tail of Claridge now.
Certainly did. I wonder if it's something where Mick maybe needs to fiddle with his brake bias in the car. It just doesn't seem to be happy on the way into this corner that they approach right now. Can he actually manage to get it woed up this time? Nope, he can't. He's going to do it again. He's off into the gravel. Is he actually going to try and bring it back? Is he going to keep trying here? Again, he's not really in the championship hunt. He is going to get it back out on course. The team is going to have a heck of a time trying to wash the car after the race. He's certainly been off through the dirt and gravel plenty of times already.
And this is so un-Mick-like to make the same mistake 5-6 times already in this race. I don't think I've ever seen this from him.
So ahead of him, Sadro, still in a little bit of a battle now that Mick has got back on course. He was fighting with Billy Bob Wright, but now his eyes are turning to his mirrors as they swing it through the final chicane into the braking for the final corner. If I was Sadro, I would be a little bit nervous with Mick this close behind coming into that corner.
Let's see what Mick Claridge does this time when he reaches turn 1. He has a lot of momentum, actually takes a look on the inside of Sadro, but realizes that's not the place where you have to do it. This time Mick Claridge can keep it on the track. Slides a little bit though, still not really the ideal way to take that turn 2 corner. He stays on track, can keep the pressure on Sadro now.
We're not missing anything up at the front. Our drivers have all spread apart for the top few positions. This is really our closest battle within the top 10 even as they come over the bridge and through turn 6.
Let's go to a battle outside of the top 10 then, to P18. Johnny Bell and Jess Coleman. Those two drivers, they started in P17 and P22 respectively, as Jess Coleman actually is trying to let Michel de Dion by, so that kind of kills the battle. But these two drivers were nose to tail for basically the whole lap, so that's a good battle between the two of them in the back of the field.
These drivers still fight fiercely for their spots no matter where they are on track. And yet more of our leaders coming through as David Gaspers is going to lap them, then Eduardo Prado. You have to admit, Prado, who at least has made his way back to third, is probably missing out on some points here today because he's certainly not right on top of David Gaspers. There's still over a second between them. And certainly the traffic not helping as Johnny Bell trying to get out of the way. They're not doing anything wrong, just unfortunately it's not an easy track to stay out of the way.
Ooh, as Gasper's almost lost it there in the final corner. Great save from him to not carabine into the wall. He can continue. That will lose him a little bit of time towards Prado.
He did. It's now down to half a second. He halved that gap. So maybe he is going to be able to look at second place here. I spoke too soon. Still quite a few laps left to go. Nearly half of them. We only just went past that halfway marker. Another little slide coming out of turn 3 from David Gaspers. And the track temperature has gone up. We haven't pointed that out.
Another spin that we just saw in turn 2, that was over Trangerade. He basically did the same that Mick Claridge did a few times. He can continue though, but he lost quite a bit of time in his battle to Gary Thiel. And it allows Billy Bob Wright to catch up to the Norwegian.
Yeah, but Billy Bob Wright has a train behind him. Sadro and Claridge have run him back down and are applying some immense pressure.
Yeah, but to be honest though, I don't think that Billy Bob has a lot to fear from Daniel Cedro at the moment, because Daniel Cedro might be a little bit quicker, but it doesn't seem like he's so much quicker that he actually can get by. Very exciting corner there from Daniel Cedro, sliding through one of the quick curves. And as long as Cedro can keep Claridge behind him, I think that Billy Bob will be fine. He's actually trying to break the draft there from the two behind him. Daniel Cedro is not moving an inch, and that allows Claridge to get some more speed towards turn 1. All these drivers accordion towards each other again under braking, as over Trangerade in front of them has another lockup. He spins another time, and now it's a drag race towards turn 3. Billy Bob Wright is going to win that one. He's going to get that P7 position still side by side. As behind him, Mick Claridge goes side by side with Daniel Cedro.
That is the Mick Claridge we've come to know and love. He pounced as soon as Sadro was distracted and took the position. That gets him up 1. And now he's got Ove Trangerade, a driver he is very familiar with battling with. See if he can try and manage to sneak his way through there. Trangerade, one of those who has been mistake prone himself. Can Claridge clean up his act and manage to overtake as we ride on board with the green and yellow car of Mick Claridge? That is the purple machine of Ove Trangerade, trying to square off the corner, get himself a good launch, and it just might pay off as they lap the car of Johnny Bell. Down to the inside, Trangerade goes defensive, but they are going to be wheel to wheel. How brave is Mick going to be in the corner that he has struggled oh so much with? He manages to get it wound up and keep it straight, but Billy Bob Wright is the one that goes wide. Now Ove Trangerade gets a chance to pounce, but he can't get the power down off the corner. That opens up the door for Mick Claridge on the inside of turn 3. Can he finally seal the deal? He finds the grip. It is another right-hander coming through 4, and it's going to be even more right-handers as they swing through 5 and 6, but he's finally got it done. Claridge now up to 8th.
What an awareness. He tried to steer in turn 1, but realized that over Trangerade just wasn't steering in where he expected him to. So he had to basically save the car, steer to the right to not drive into the Norwegian. That caused a gigantic wobble that almost saw him crash out. Meanwhile, over Trangerade, big moment, loses the connection to Claridge. Meanwhile, let's go to P2. There's a battle there heating up between Gaspers and Prado. Last time around, actually was Gaspers being slightly quicker. So Prado, the last few laps, Joe, is just putting a lot of pressure on Gaspers.
He really is. And I've been noticing this for a while because I've been within this about 0.3 of a second or less at times, trying to challenge. I don't think the German is going to make it easy on him. They come through turn 7 now, into 8. Not really much of a chance breaking into the swift uphill turn 9. Maybe he could set him up for the final corner. Maybe he could set him up off the corner. Let's see what he decides to do. Falls back a little bit through the chicane. Can he square it off? Get himself the launch. Looks a little bit wider off the turn, maybe carrying better speed. He's going to have a hint of the slipstream, but is that going to be enough? It's starting to reel him in. He looks to the inside. Gaspers with no defense because he doesn't feel the need for it, because a little bit earlier braking for Prado means he's not going to get it for now.
Yeah, but that racing line through the last corner from Prado, he will love to see the advantage that it gives him. Let's see if Gaspers next time around tries to do a different racing line there as well, because he was almost caught out completely in turn one. Meanwhile, there was Bruce Nelson on the inside there, letting both these cars by. Bruce Nelson being back on track after his crash. Let's go back to P8. The battle there is still heating up between Mick Claret. What actually happened with Mick Claret?
Mick must have wrecked out because I just saw him disappear. Ove Trangrade and Daniel Sadro. As we go to the replay, it looks like Trangrade finally got that. Let's see what caused all this, though.
I think it's the same thing as happened several times. Mick Claret is just losing control, and I think he went over the incident limit and got himself disqualified.
Wow, when was the last time we've seen that in this car? Which I'm sure would shock some, but these drivers are very careful with it. That is impressive that he managed to go over the limit and unfortunately has disappeared for the day. So that is certainly going to end his adventures. We watch Daniel Sadro continue to hound over Trangrade. And just as that happens, Eduardo Prado getting very close to managing to overtake Prado. Or excuse me, Gaspers.
Exactly, very, very close between these two drivers. Prado, it's so difficult for him. It must be so frustrating because through the first couple of corners on this track, he is quicker than Gaspers. He can see visually that he gets within almost a quarter of a car length from the guy in front. But through this quick section, Gaspers is just driving away slightly and just enough so he can defend going into turn one. Let's see if it is any different this time around through the final corner. Again, different racing lines. Again, it's Prado with the wide line trying to make more momentum, but that wider line also means that you have to make more meters, and that might hurt him in the end. Again, he tries to take a look on the inside, but he just doesn't hang in there. He brakes too early to go side by side through that corner, and I think that if Prado one time just keeps it there, he doesn't back out, I think that he will be able to get that P2 position.
I get the feeling that Gaspers is going to have to watch out on the final lap because they have 10 seconds back to Rob Olenek in fourth. So when it all comes down to it, I imagine that Prado, if he hasn't passed him yet by that final turn, is probably going to send one in and just hope it sticks because he keeps getting so close. He falls back a little bit now. Gaspers is finally getting the car underneath him and pulling away. They've dropped back from Dudignon, who is about 4 seconds ahead. I think Michel has been struggling with a little bit of the traffic because it looks like he lost about half a second that last time by.
Yeah, a lot of traffic in front of these drivers. Let's see if Prado can get it this time around out of the last corner. Gap between him is a little bit further, but you said that he lost all the time in the infield section because of traffic, where you can see on screen he has immediately won it back. The line that Prado is taking through the quick section as Gaspers is making a huge mistake, a huge lockup. Gets it slowed down. Now this might give the Brazilian overtaking opportunity in turn 3. I think he's again too far away. But the line that Prado is taking through the infield section is superb. He is so spot on every apex, every turning point, every exit point, that he's just miles better than Gaspers there. And that means that Gaspers just cannot get a gap towards the Brazilian.
Oh, but look at this. This time he opens the door. Prado sticks his nose, and he's not waiting around for a better opportunity. Side by side through 7 and 8. I'm not sure the last time we've seen that in any car. It doesn't work, but brave stuff from the Brazilian. They swing it through that final chicane and come up to the final turn. He's got a taste of blood now. I think Prado is going to start to get more aggressive. A bad exit off the final corner, though, is going to deny him his favorite opportunity down into turn 1. But, oh, Prado is starting to look and poke and prod.
Absolutely, and he almost got it there. Again, through turn 2, he's not close enough. But this will wake up David Gaspers, because he hasn't been this close to losing P2 to Prado any time in this race. With 5 laps to go, he also knows that the clock is ticking for the Brazilian. If he wants to get a P2 position, he will have to take some more risks to get that overtake finally.
He doesn't look afraid to take those risks currently, as he stays right underneath him. Apologies to the rest of the field. This is really where we've got to watch. Even though Gaspers isn't in the championship hunt, Prado doesn't want to lose any more points than he has to Dudignon. He gets a good run out of turn 9. Can't do anything with it. Oh, look at this, though. He is going to do something with it now, and he loses it. Gaspers into the wall hard. All that hard work comes to naught as he smashes it into the barrier.
And that looks like a lot of suspension damage for Gaspers there. Let's go on board to see what exactly happened. This is something that we've seen early in the race as well. It really happens the corner before already. Once they reach the chicane, he just hits the first part of the chicane too hard. Car gets unsettled, bounces up in the air, and when the car comes down, you just lose all the grip because you're steering at the same time. Tries to catch it, cannot get it, cannot find the grip that he needs and slams hard into the wall. He's in the pits now. It means that the race is over for Gasper, but that doesn't mean that the racing is over because the battle for P8 is still very, very severe. Well, P7 now with the crashing out of David Gaspers. Billy Bob Wright is fending off from over Triangulate, and Daniel Setter actually lost a little bit of time, but well, a half a lap ago he was still right on the tail of over Triangulate, so he must have made a mistake. Meanwhile, the Norwegian is hounding over the rear of Billy Bob Wright and trying left and right to get a P7 position.
Certainly wants to move his way back up. Remember, Ove qualified P5 in this race. He is still well down from where he should be based on qualifying pace. Speaking of pace, you can see at the top of your screen, Dudignon just set fastest lap. Despite his gap of about 5 seconds, he is not resting on his laurels here in the final circuits around this place. Up into the final turn. Another case of a driver trying to square off the exit. Tranquerade doing what he can. And this does not work for him. He falls away from Billy Bob Wright with that move.
Yeah, absolutely. Through turn 1 again, he doesn't really hit the apex, but he does a very late dive there on the inside. Billy Bob Wright saw it and just took a wider line and covered it off. But well, that was a really late overtaking maneuver from the Norwegian there, almost touching Billy Bob Wright in front. Meanwhile, Sadro, he's chewing popcorn very loudly there because these two drivers in front are fighting hard. Daniel Sadro is just waiting there until something happens. Meanwhile, we don't have to go to the driver. I actually want to talk a little bit about Benjamin Soko. What a race he is having. We haven't seen him for a while, of course, but he's driving around now on P4, started the race in P7, winning 3 positions this race so far. But a great race from the Australian there in his home race. And yeah, if one more driver makes a mistake in the top 3, he will actually get a podium here.
Which is certainly not out of the question the way it's been going. I mean, Prado made his way back up into second place. Meanwhile, Ove got awful close in the final corner, but he looked very unsteady into there, and that's why you see the gap between them. Oh, but what happened to Billy Bob? Completely cuts the course coming through the first corner. Looks like he lost control. Is he going to get a slowdown from that? Doesn't appear to have.
He has to, but if he just parks his car strategically on the apexes and just go on the throttle later, then he maybe can serve it while not losing a position. You can see it here. It's almost like he just steers in 5 meters too soon. Cuts the corner. Stays in front at the moment. We go back live. He's still in front of over Trangrate, however, and I'm actually looking on board with Billy Bob Wright. It doesn't seem like he's trying to serve his slow down penalty at the moment. It seems like he got away with it there. Ooh, as they get very close, they over Trangrate much tighter through that corner, through the left-hander, and almost running into the back of Billy Bob.
Oh, but he's off track, and Ove Trangrate somehow slows the car up, even though he was 2 wheels off out of the chicane. This is a wild battle between these 3, and this is all to settle 6th place between the trio of them. It is final lap. This is the last chance to try and get this sorted out. I'll have to get back to that in a bit because Dudignon is already heading through the final chicane. Just 1 more corner to go. It is back to things as usual, as Michel Dudignon comes out the last turn and crosses the line for victory here at Oran Park.
Yeah, let's go back to the P6 battle. Daniel Cedro is falling off a little bit, but over Trangrate and Billy Bob Wright is still nose to tail. Only half a car length between them. Over Trangrate with a little wiggle there, but he gets it slowed down. Great corner in the left-hander for over Trangrate. He has one more opportunity in the final corner. He has to send it on the inside there. He has a look on the inside. He throws it on the inside, but Billy Bob is just fending him off there. Slightly wide the line from Billy Bob there, and with more momentum, I think that he will get it. He will finish there in P6 over Trangrate. Has to set up for P7.
I kind of figured Billy Bob knew that one was coming. I would have been shocked if he did him off. And amazingly, that is the last of our cars across the line. David Rossi, I believe, Yeah, David Rossi is going to be the last driver on the lead lap. That's how many cars and how short of a lap it is around here. 9th place, David Rossi out there. And he comes home with a well-earned finish, but that's going to take us to break. We're going to come back with the official results as well as driver interviews. But in between now and then, you'll see all the upcoming races here on the GSRC.
"40 of the best sim racers, $100,000 on the line. Who will rise to the challenge?" This is the most competitive and sought-after season in iRacing World Championship history. This is where legends are made. This is the Porsche Esports Super Cup.
Welcome back to Oran Park Raceway. We just watched round 9 here in the Grand Prix Legends. Michel Dudignon taking another victory over Eduardo Prado. They started on the front row that way, but it wasn't like that for much of the race. Prado had to claw his way forward after a bad first few corners. Rob Olenek from 6th to 3rd. You got to give him credit, managing to stay on the track while others around him faltered to get a podium. Ben Zoko, the highest finishing Australian, with a 4th place. I'm sure that will do him proud, especially considering his iRating put him 10th out there. Gary Teal was 5th in the end, with Billy Bob Wright having a heck of a fight back there. He led 3 cars to the line. Ove Trangrade 7th behind him, and Daniel Sadro coming right across just back there in 8th. David Rossi with the last on the lead lap in 9th, and Stefan Schlacher, with almost no practice coming into this race, managed to top 10.
Behind him, Ian Haycox, he finishes the race in P11, being held up by Stefan Slacker all race. Bill Tyler also couldn't find a way past. He finishes P12 overall, and P2 in the Formula 2 race here today behind David Rossi. Andres Bruno, P13, he's followed by Steve Hogan, Colin Bentley, and Jess Coleman. Those are all the drivers finishing 1 lap down. Then we go to Johnny Bell and Jasmine Beach, who are 2 laps down. And then there's a few unfortunate drivers who had to retire today, starting with David Gaspers after his mistake in the final corner, slamming into the wall. He's classified in P19. Mick Claridge, who was saying in the chat that he was suffering from screen stutter, so technical problems, saw the Brit spin a few times in turn 1 when he got behind some other drivers. Bruce Nelson finishes in P21 in front of Robert Reynolds, Nathan Michael, and Philippe Urquhart, who had a crash lap 1.
And because I just like to see a Dutchman and an Austrian bickering more, I believe Johan is caught up with Stefan Schlacker for the post-race interviews.
Stefan, welcome to the booth. Good to talk to you. You started the race in P18. You said you didn't really have a lot of practice before you started. So around which lap did you finally feel comfortable in this car at Oran Park?
First of all, nearly no practice equals zero practice because I haven't even joined a single practice session. So yeah, my first practice laps were the qualifying laps. But I have to say, the first qualifying lap, I started, all right, I'm getting into this. Second qualifying lap, I was already quite comfortable with it, strangely. Obviously had a little bit too much fuel. I was fueling up for 35 laps because I just used a Laguna Seca setup. But yeah, into the race, the first lap, the second lap, third lap, you're starting to realize, hey, where am I? Do I have to do to get up to a certain point where I want to be? And honestly, after lap 5, I felt super confident with the car. And then the track started to get hotter and hotter and hotter. And really, the last 6-7 laps is where I really started to struggle with the car because the rear tires got heated up so fast that I wasn't able to really control the slip angle anymore.
We saw a lot of drivers struggle, especially with the section between turn 1 and turn 2. Did you find yourself struggling with the same part of the track? Did you almost spin there out a few times?
I had one moment where I overtook, I think that was Steve Hogan. I overtook him around the outside and then suddenly accidentally crossed to the infield there. But apart from that, not really anything. But I can see why people are struggling because they're so far on the edge, especially with the braking bias, like 55%, where I'm really soft on the brakes and I'm only using 57% of front braking, so much further forward than these guys do have. So I really don't struggle that much while turning on the brakes.
Next week, we're going to a completely different track. We're going to the 2011 version of Pocono. Will you be there? And if so, how far do you think you can get there if you actually get some practice in?
I hopefully will be there. And in my language, there is no Pocono, there's a Poco Yes.
Very good. Well, let's see if you can get some points at Poco Yes next week. Thank you for talking with us, Stefan. We hope to see you then.
Hey, always a pleasure.
That was Stefan Slacker talking with us after finishing in P10. Meanwhile, Joe, you've caught up with one of our drivers that we saw a lot on the broadcast today, Mick Claridge.
I would think it would be Poco 9 for Stefan Schlacker. But yes, we have Mick Claridge with us, who unfortunately did not get to see the checkered flag. Mick, it sounded like it was a struggle out there. I'm kind of surprised that you tried to gut through the stutters that you said you were having. What made you try and stay out there and deal with it despite some hardware issues?
Hi, Joe. Yeah, it was sort of a bit hit and miss whether they was coming or not, and I wasn't too sure. I even I have to explain my setup. My setup is I've got my PC right on the window ledge, and I've got a window that opens right next to it, and I lift even on the front straight for 1 minute. I lifted the rift up just to see if the window was open wide enough, and I tried to reach up and push it open, and that's why I completely missed the brake marker for turn 1. So it was just one of those races, What a joke.
Yeah, it didn't seem like it was a whole lot of fun out there, but looking forward to next week, will you be able to race Pocono, and do you consider yourself a stronger oval racer than Michelle?
I'm not too sure. I don't think any of us know how to set up for oval in this car. There's been a good few leagues over the years that have used this car just for oval tracks. I forget the name of the league now, but it was quite a big thing. There was a lot of drivers, so I'm guessing we might see some of those guys turn up. You'll probably see some decent oval guys turning up and putting all those weird camber settings in the car and showing us how to do it properly.
Well, the good news for you is that from what we've heard from most oval drivers, is that Pocono races the most like a road course out of all the ovals. So maybe that'll play to your advantage. Will we see you back fully next season, or is it going to be similar to this season where you're just going to be out sporadically when time provides?
No, I'm going to have next season off, I think, and I'm going to have a chat with you about that. So yeah.
All right. Well, look forward to getting to talk to you. Maybe we'll get you up in the booth or something next season. Commiserations on today, and hopefully we'll see you at Pocono.
Yeah, cheers, Joe.
Was Mick Claridge, unfortunately DNF'd and out in 20th today. So that's going to close us up. And of course, we want to thank a few people before we go. Big thank you goes out to the Lotus 49 community for bringing us back for another season of coverage, and also to iRacing for putting us on the iRacing Esports Network. Make sure and subscribe. Go off to their YouTube page if you're not there already. Click on the subscribe button, and you won't miss a moment here in the Grand Prix Legends series. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. And additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, Johan, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. You can also check us out on social media. We're on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. As we mentioned, we're heading over to Pennsylvania, to the Poconos for the 2011 Oval, so it's going to be a little bit bumpy on that version. That'll be Saturday, August 17th at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.